Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello everyone, my name is Mark, aka Derringer. Today is Sunday, February 11th, and you are listening to episode 144 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. First up this week, as always, what have I been doing in-game lately? And, well, obviously, I'm going to talk about it when we get into the show, but Doku's new LMGs have been launched into the game, and I did spend some time playing around with the Maw. I was excited because it is supposedly the Vanu Sovereignty anchor. It doesn't play exactly like the anchor, and a little disappointed that it's not a direct clone of the anchor because I love using the anchor so much on NC, but it's close enough, and It's not a bad LMG. It's not a great LMG. It is that. But I did spend a lot of time last Thursday playing solely with the Maw and doing all kinds of fun killing with the Maw itself, playing around with the unstable ammo and without the unstable ammo to see how it played. I think I purchased the fully loaded bundle for it. I had enough station cash, so I just grabbed it. So that was a big thing. I also have been working on the Lasher some more. I'm up to 850 Lasher kills with the Platinum Lasher. Almost done with it. Maybe another week or two and I'll be done with it if I could dedicate some time to it. But the real big thing I did this past week is I played in a lane smash for the first time in a long time. In fact, that's probably the first lane smash that I've actually played in. The last time we had a lane smash, I think I was actually casting it because it was part of Community Clash way back in the day. Because, yeah, in case you guys didn't know, I helped create the original Community Clash way back when we were doing stuff like that with the help of Daybreak Games. I was casting a lot of those events. So I think that's probably the last time. And they weren't even called lane smashes back then. They were just, we were fighting over a preset lane within the game itself. And at the time, I believe it was just 3 bases, nothing like the larger lanes that we do in Lane Smash right now. But like I said, I did participate in a Lane Smash this weekend. And I guess technically it was an internal smash because it was just Emerald. It was 2 different sides of Emerald all fighting each other on the continent of Hassan. But this particular lane that we fought over was from Mulak Tech Plant all the way up to Zot's Biolab. So, I mean, we were fighting over things like Nettlemeyer Gardens, the Ziggurat, Eastern Substation, the Zot's Arboretum, the Zot's Agricultural Lab, things like that. I played on the TR side, and it was good. I mean, I don't play in a lot of these, and it's not because I don't enjoy playing in the Server Smash events. It's because they're competitive, and I'm not a very good competitive player. But in this particular game, I was given the task of being a galaxy pilot and keeping a galaxy over the points as we were assaulting them, defending them, or whatnot, and shuttling people back and forth to ensure that they always had a valid spawn point over whatever we were attacking. And if I do say so myself, I did a pretty damn good job of this. I did get shot down once. I think I got shot down twice. I got rammed once, or I rammed another galaxy with mine once and killed them and blew up at the same time. But like I said, I spent time shuttling the much better players around the map and getting them over the points that they need to be on and allowing them to drop out and continue to fight what they're fighting. And in addition to that, I kept positioning myself as best possible over the enemy spawn beacons, and I kept getting kills as people crashed into the galaxy on the other team. Ultimately, my team did win. We captured the biolab and then ended the smash altogether. And granted, I think I only had a total of 7 kills for the entire time that I played. But again, I spent the majority of my time in that galaxy shuttling players back and forth and ensuring that they always had a valid spawn point and could drop immediately on the target. Now, granted, I had a lot of team kills as well, which, again, it was basically drop pods crashing into my galaxy. But even though I didn't get to kill a lot of the enemies, I felt like I was a very valid contributor to the game itself. And I do think that my dedication to keeping the galaxy up at all costs and getting it over the point just when it was needed helped secure that victory that we had. I played with the guys in joke backs, the stuff like that, and we were the highest. I guess you can say we were the best out from the game. We had the highest number of kills, the least number of deaths when you compare that in. We did a lot of work, I guess is what I want to say on Hassan on Saturday. And so it just goes to show you that if you want to participate in something like this and you don't consider yourself a good player, like me, I don't consider myself a good competitive player. I'm not a 2KD heavy or anything like that people are looking for. You can do a secondary role like I did and constantly be shuttling players back and forth. I know some other players are doing the exact same thing in Valkyries. So I really had a lot of fun, as sad as some of you might think, just doing one thing and not really killing other players. But if they ever need me to play in another server smash and they need a Galaxy pilot like I was, I would be more than happy to sign up and do it again. So again, I implore anybody who's kind of sat on the sidelines because they don't think they're a good player, there are other things that you can do within these smashes to endear yourself to your team and make a important contribution to your side as well. So I guess I got to say thank you to Coach for getting me in, and thank you for Gelos for finding me a slot so that I can play. I had signed up, but I kind of logged on a minute or two later than I was supposed to and almost had to sit on the sidelines. So again, Coach and Gelos, thanks for getting me into this particular Smash itself, because I did have a good time, and when you have a good time, you're liable to go and do them again. So I'm actually looking forward to when the next one is. Other than that, not a heck of a lot in-game, like I said before. Little Lasher play, little Maw play, and stuff like that. So, you're asking yourself, after that, what's in store for this week's show? Well, first, I do have a big PC game update to talk about, followed by a small hotfix to fix the bugs that were introduced with the aforementioned game update. Then I want to talk about Nick Silva's 2017 producer's letter 1 year later, and finish the show with some pre-Valentine's Day hype. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, so as I said, first topic this week is the February 8th PC game update. Note that this update did not come to PS4, and as far as I know, there is no ETA on when you're going to see this stuff onto the PS4. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later, because obviously you guys would like this update as well, because it did add a lot of cool stuff. Hopefully, even though we haven't heard anything about it, I would love to see something like this drop this upcoming week or the week after, worst case. But we're kind of going to have to see. But first off, the biggest thing in this, I think, is probably the Unstable Warpgate system is now actually on live on the PC. So, as I've said before, the description of this is that whenever a new continent is open, it's going to be put into an unstable state, where the majority of territories show as offline until the population of the continent itself reaches a certain threshold. And for everyone that I've done when this has happened, the entire middle of the map is grayed out, and only the ring of lattice links around the outer portion of the continent is open. Currently, for the time being, any unstable continent is going to go online. Online means no longer unstable, and every territory is going to be unlocked and capturable. This is going to happen after 2 hours during off-peak times because they want those to still open up and be played on. That could change in the future itself. Some other caveats while the continent is in an unstable status. Hives can't be placed. Meltdown alerts can't be triggered, which also means that the continent can't be locked. Many regions become disconnected, and the lattice is made uncapturable. You can still go into those disabled regions, and you can hack any terminals in those regions to make them usable. A population of more than 96 players on the continent will cause the warp gates to stabilize. And the intent, obviously, of this is to increase fight density on off continents because you're funneling people into specific lanes. They also want to mitigate any of the free, quote-unquote, free meltdown wins taking place on off continents, and we all know what those are, where there's an off continent that most people aren't fighting on, and one faction holds 60% of the map, and bang, a meltdown alert kicks off, and everybody gets free loot boxes out of it. And finally, this is also to give players in queue for the main continents an alternative to actually sitting in virtual reality. There is one known bug regarding this right now, is that the alert for unstable warp gates is firing based on global population instead of continent population. So what that means is anytime one of these unstable unstable continents opens, they're immediately going into that 5-minute mode before it's unlocked, so they're automatically unlocking and becoming a full continent that everything can happen on. Daybreak Games is aware of this, and they're working on fixing that hopefully this week so that a unstable warp gate continent remains an unstable warp gate continent until more than 96 players are actually playing on the continent itself. Like I said, I've played on the unstable warp gate. It's continent. It's a awesome, cool idea. I love the fact that you're funneling fights into specific areas. I think it'll be much better once they fix that one bug that I talked about and make them more stable in their unstable state, I guess, is the joke that I would make there. Either way, it's something new. It's something good. I like the fact that we're not just going to having these brand new continents unlock and then ghost caps happening throughout the whole thing and then these free meltdown alerts happening. So I see this as nothing but a good thing for the game itself. Second in this PC game update, Koltyr is now been repurposed as a virtual reality training areas. And again, that's so all factions can go in and test weapons in a more casual environment that doesn't record stats. You can get into there from the world map screen or through any Warpgate terminal. VR loadouts are used, which means that all weapons and all equipments are at max level. They are unlocked, and you don't need to purchase them. Up to 33 players on each faction for a total of 99 total players can make use of the continent. 2 instances of Koltyr can exist at any time currently, so you could... So that means, obviously, that a total of 198 players can be in Koltyr at any one time, which is kind of cool. That means people aren't going to be stuck in the regular VR training area now. Also, flashes, sunderers, and lightnings are the only available ground vehicles. Experience gain is disabled, and friendly fire is also disabled. But as you can see, fire against the enemy is not disabled. So I think that using this as a regular training area is going to give a much better idea of what your weapons are going to do in a live fire environment without actually going into a live fire environment. So have not used this myself yet personally, but next time some of any new weapons are going to come out that I need to get on and play around with and train, I do plan to go to the Koltyr VR area and play around with them before actually purchasing them. Again, I think this is another excellent change to the game. It's repurposing an area that was not being used. Do I wish Koltyr had been repurposed into a battle island along with the Nexus instead? Yes, but this could just be the first stage of Koltyr before it moves on to something different, or this could be what Koltyr is going on into the future. Third in this update, we got the new vehicle capture bases. The new vehicle bases themselves, and a whole bunch of lattice adjustments to the game itself. So these 3 new vehicle capturable bases were added to Esamir and Indar. 2 new ones were added to Amrish. They're open areas which contain a single capture point, and obviously you can build construction objects on and around them to defend them. So in addition to that, they've made some adjustments to some base capture points and lattice connections to reduce stagnation on the map and increase some of the lane flexibility. So these new places are on Indar. You've got the new Sunken Relay Station, which is between Howling Pass and Mao Watchtower. You have Burgess Checkpoint, which is in between Regent Rock Garrison and Scarred Mesa Skydock. And you have Lowlands Trading Post between Indar Excavation and Quartz Ridge Camp. They've also removed the no deploy zone the construction no deploy zone where the abandoned NS offices used to be. Moving on to Amrish, we got the new Soulless Nature Annex. Note that is SNA, because that's where subterranean nanite analysis used to be. Again, between Zealous Northgate and Silver Valley Arsenal. They also added Cobalt Geological Outpost between Cobalt Communications and West Pass Watchtower and Scarfield Reliquary, so it's kind of in between the triangle of those 3. In addition, at Lithcorp Central, they expanded the Sunder and Construction no deploy zones, and they adjusted some of the Biolab capture point building geometry, as well as adding some more spawn room cover to Sungray West Gate. Moving on to Esamir, they added Tap Way Station, which is in between Andvari Frozen Reservoir and Pale Canyon Chemical. They also added the BL4 recovery point between East River Sky Station and Terran BL4 crash site. And they also added the Untapped Reservoir, which is between Rime Analytics and Matherson's Triumph. They also made some changes to all 3 of the biolabs on Esamir. Manny got some new lattice links between Manny Fortress and Manny Tower and Manny Lake Satellite. Andvari got some lattice links between Andvari Barracks to Andvari Frozen Reservoir and Andvari Frozen Reservoir to Andvari South Bank. And Ymir got lattice links from Ymir Southern Reach to Ymir Mine Watch, and also Ymir Mine Watch to Ymir Eastern Way Station. In addition, some other adjustments to the game itself, or to the lattice themselves. Echo Valley Substation now links to Knot Communications. Apex Genetics now links to Rime Analytics. They removed the lattice between Rime Analytics and Cerro Listening Post. East River Sky Station got an expanded Sunder no deploy zone. Cerro Listening Post's A point was moved out of the tower and is now a vehicle capture point east of the base. And the Traverse's A point is also now a vehicle capture point. So as you can see, quite a few different lattice adjustments and additions to 3 of the 4 continents themselves. And it just makes me wonder when we're going to see some vehicle capture stuff added to Hassan, because obviously that seems to be a little left off at this point in time. Now, one final thought on this, whether you're a construction fan or not a construction fan like I am, this is good for the game itself, because obviously we do need to cater, or Daybreak Games needs to cater to vehicle players, to construction players, as well as pure infantry players and non-construction players. So again, I see this as a good thing for the game itself, especially if you're creating more of these areas where you can build construction stuff into the game itself. And it makes me wonder if we're getting closer to that time in the game where construction will be fully fleshed into the game itself, and we'll see random construction things built at existing bases within the game itself, because that's something I think we ultimately should get to if the goal is to fully intertwine construction into the existing game itself. Now, moving along, though, we move on to the Empire-specific LMGs. Obviously, these are the ones designed by Doku. The first one, the Maw, which I purchased, which I have mixed feelings about. Not that bad a weapon. The MGR-L1 had its name confirmed. It's the Promise now. Again, I don't like that name, but whatever. And finally, the MGH1 Watchman, which is the new Terran Republic. The Promise is the new Conglomerate one. I know a lot of people were praising the Watchman. I didn't get killed too much by it this time around, but I know a lot of people are happy on TR with the Watchman in its current state. Most people aren't satisfied too much with the Promise. As with all of these, most people think that they don't really fit a real good niche within the game itself. I mean, a lot of people are looking for niche weapons, and these kind of blur the lines between some existing ones. I mean, people say with the Maw, why would you use the Maw over the Orion or the Beetlejuice? And I see a lot of similar complaints with the Promise and the Watchmen themselves. Again, they don't kind of stand out as a unique niche weapon, which is what I think a lot of people expected. But they are out there in the game if you're looking to play with them. Next up, some other infantry adjustments themselves. First off, the Canis got some changes. Its unstable ammo no longer penalizes the cone of fire. The base fire rate was increased from 500 RPM to 550 RPM. And what this does is it helps push it into a more competitive position. The unstable ammo drop of the cone of fire penalty, as the more recent headshot multiplier reduction, was sufficient to balance out the power of the attachment itself. Next, the Jackal also got some changes, so its projectile and velocity was also increased, 350 to 400. The BX adapter got some changes to itself so that it no longer reduces ammo capacity, and its reload speed was increased, and it can no longer be equipped at the same time as the hybrid suppressor. So the goal there was to keep it as a niche attachment while fixing some of the quality of life issues by it, and the velocity increase helps the weapon play more nicely with hybrid suppressor, and complements the accuracy focus of the base weapon itself per the devs. Gladius got some changes as well. Its default magazine size was reduced, and its ammo capacity was increased, and the devs say that it's mostly where they want it to be, but a little bit of tuning was required. The mag size reduction removes some of the damage of that per magazine, while keeping it between an unmodified Cyclone and a Blitz. The magazine reduction indirectly creates a more substantial trade-off for the SPRW attachment as well. So again, Canis, Jackal, Gladius, the last Doku round of weapons all got some updates. And just going back to the Maw, the Promise, and the Watchman, I expect to see similar changes like we see with the Canis, Jackal, and Gladius coming down the line for those as well. Next, some vehicle adjustments. First, the Lightning had its braking penalty on racer chassis removed. And I talked about this on a show ago, how it was causing issues with lateral friction while moving over hills and rough terrain, and what it ultimately does is make the vehicle easier to control all around. The Saron LRB, this is the nose gun on the Scythe, had its magazine size reduced down to 60, and this was based on player feedback to reel in some of its strength against other ESFs with the default weapon. Bigger changes, though, came to the Galaxy in the form of the new lock-on jamming field added to a defensive slot, and what this will do is passively protect allied vehicles from lock-on attempts and proximity-based lock-ons, but not the Galaxy itself. Depending on what rank you have it, it works within 100 to 150 meters of the Galaxy, and really the goal here obviously is to create some new support capabilities to the Galaxy itself. You will still be susceptible to flak, and this ability will receive a new mini-map icon similar to proximity repair or ammunition galaxies, as well as a new visual FX in a later update. Also, the nanite proximity repair system was increased for air vehicles out to 75 meters. The vehicle ammo dispenser for the Galaxy no longer has different resupply ranges for air and ground vehicles, and altogether they've received a slight increase. Rank 1 is 50 meters for all vehicles, down to rank 4 where it's 100 meters for all vehicles. And really it's just to promote support capabilities for the Galaxy and reduce mid-air collisions within the game itself. Moving on to the Liberator, the afterburner change that I talked about a few weeks ago. Afterburners have now been integrated into the vehicle, and it no longer takes up a utility slot. You can upgrade the line to the passive cert area. Regeneration rate of the default burners is 40 seconds. The first rank reduces the regeneration rate to 30. And obviously it's just because this has been a best in slot for so long for the Liberator that it just makes sense to push it to a passive cert so that people can make some more choices within the utility slot for the Liberator itself. Also, the Bulldog, which in the Liberator, the tail gun, had its direct damage increased to 400, and it's really intended to reward aim against light armored targets like other ESFs and harassers, which should move the shots to burn kill along a bit for those. Next up, and finally, the harasser had its tank cannon resistance change from -20 to -50, and this is solely to reduce the number of main cannon shots to kill a harasser by 1. After that, the patch brought a bunch of, or game update itself, brought a bunch of bug fixes to the game itself. One of them where remote clients would see players replay their firing animation after reloading a burst weapon. That one's kind of annoying. Being ejected from squad-spawned vehicles whose pilot is not the owner of the vehicle. That one was annoying. The change to have the join combat prompt appear for idle players below BR20, encouraging them to join the fight, has been added to the game. Headshot displays have their new headshot damage indicator, which I know a lot of people are still getting used to. And I've seen quite a few posts on this one with veteran players specifically saying that this change is throwing off their game. We'll see if there's any changes to it. And the final big miscellaneous change was that max units can now flip vehicle capture points. That didn't used to be in-game, and it's a new one within the game itself. So again, if you're in a max suit, you can finally capture 1 point within the game itself. So that is the February 8th PC game update in a nutshell. Like I said, hopefully we'll see the majority of this stuff coming to the PS4 side sooner rather than later. So as I said at the start of the show, topic 2 was the February 9th PC hotfix, which was hot on the heels of the February 8th game update to fix a whole bunch of bugs that were introduced. So some of those bugs that were fixed were that the squad board should no longer show placeholder data. Queues should no longer state that you are waiting to enter the bro zone. I didn't see that one. Continent queues should also no longer show members that they should become members. Basically, it was saying to buy membership if you already had membership. And finally, the implant charger UI, which suddenly reared its ugly head again, has been put back in its box, hopefully never to be seen again. So, again, those were the kind of the biggest bugs that had appeared as a result of this game update, and those are now fixed and gone from the game itself. The one that kind of bugged me the most was being told to become a member during continent queues when I'm already a member. So if you were experiencing these issues and haven't played the games since February 9th, this was a client-only update. There was no downtime to it, and restarting your client would fix the issues themselves. So next time you log in, if you haven't played since the 8th, all of those should be fixed. And with that, let's move on to our third topic this week. So yeah, third topic, I wanted to talk about Nick Silva's producer letter 1 year later. So Clearly, he became the producer of Planetside 2 a little over a year ago at this point in the game. So I thought it would be interesting to actually go back and check out the letter and see what has actually come to the game itself. So join me as we step into the Wayback Machine right now and listen to what I said about this back on episode 92 of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, third topic this week is the producer's letter from Nick Silva that was pushed out on the Planetside 2 website. It was pushed out on Twitter as well. It was pushed out on Reddit, everywhere that it could possibly be. It was pushed out to make people read it. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to read it. I'm going to skim through some of it and read some of the things that he wrote in it because I think it's interesting and nice that we get one of these letters out there now. So Nick writes, many of you have noticed that we've been making numerous adjustments to weapons, vehicles, and other systems with recent game updates. The goal of these adjustments is to improve balance and the overall game experience. We debate each wave of tweaks, sometimes intensely, before deciding to take them to our public test server. And then we watch the results of those changes very closely. All of this is done deliberately and systematically. We don't make these changes lightly. Now, not every change we make is the right one, and we need to be quick to admit to ourselves when something isn't working and make adjustments. However, we also need to not freeze with fear over making changes we think improve the game. Sometimes we hear negative feedback about changes before they have even gone to PTS. We are paying attention to that feedback, a lot more than most of you probably think we are, but we ask that you give yourselves the chance to experience these changes firsthand before assuming their impact. We can tell the difference between carefully considered feedback and reactionary assumptions, and we treat each with the respect they deserve. It's important that we make changes iteratively and learn from the expected and unexpected results on those changes. Please know we are always looking to improve the game. And I'm going to stop there because I thought it was important that Nick came out and said, this is what we've been doing recently. And he points out specifically or expressly that they are listening to the feedback regarding this and that they are making changes based on the feedback that they receive from it. But in addition to that, they're looking at the internal data that they receive from these changes and making further changes based on it. So for the most part, they're reading the people that are having knee-jerk reactions and screaming, my God, how dare you nerf that? Yet I think they're overlooking the majority of those and basing their further tweaks or further changes based on well-thought-out feedback rather than the knee-jerk reaction feedback. So if anything, you should realize that if you're just going to say, this change sucks, you all suck, I hope you all die, that's not going to be something that makes them change something back or make any other changes. So as I've always said, if you put together a well-thought argument about why you think a change made to the game is not good for the game, with examples and things like that, you will certainly get much more of a response or reaction from the developers of Planetside 2 rather than just calling them retards. So, interesting to see that he had to put that in words, but I think sometimes people overlook that part of developing a game or creating a game or producing a game when they just rail on about how bad they think the developers are. Moving forward, he also writes, now, I want to quickly touch on what's coming up in 2017. The parts of the community calling for focus on vehicle improvements should be pleased at what comes next. We'll have more details to share later this month. Spawn improvements that encourage great fights and limit the amount of unintended population imbalance without limiting the freedom that makes PS2 such an amazing game are a priority. A dynamic region system that limits the size of the zones when server population is low is also in the works. We also intend to answer the philosophical design question of why we fight as we move through the year. So again, I'm stopping here. Interesting that vehicle improvements are kind of next on the table. I'm curious what we're actually going to see regarding vehicle improvements. I know that does not mean we're going to see a Thresher We're never going to see a Thresher in the game, and I've kind of cried in the corner over that enough. But I'm curious to see what other vehicle improvements that we're going to see. Obviously, we saw a lot of pitch up, pitch down changes to vehicle weapons to kind of help them with anti-infantry stuff, but at the same time, we also saw the removal of thermals altogether, targeting infantry, so to kind of make infantry more dangerous to vehicles. So I think we've really swung the pendulum more towards the infantry side, so I'm curious to see how they're going to swing the pendulum back to center to balance out on vehicle improvements. So I know I, for one, am sitting back and waiting to see what comes out. I do mostly infantry play with the outfits that I play with, but I am a sucker for the lightning, so I'm curious to see what these vehicle improvements are going to be. We've also talked a lot about the dynamic region system and how that is going to be favorable for servers like the Brig server, which tends to have population issues at certain times during the day through no fault of their own. So seeing some kind of dynamic region system that shrinks down the number of hexes or the number of lanes that you can fight on based on the number of players that are in the game at any given time, I think is a great thing and shouldn't dilute the freedom, as they say, of what PS2 is. So I'm curious to see what exactly they're going to do with that. I mean, we've all seen how they made suggestions on what lanes they might have in, cutting out the majority of the map. So it would be nice to see some of that come into the works and make PTS soon. As for the final thing, the philosophical / design question of why we fight, I know we all know why we fight is to kill other players, but I'm curious to see what they think the philosophical answer to that is. So I'll certainly let that topic speak for itself. To close out his letter, he said the team would like to thank you for all your the team would like to thank you all for continuing to play PS2 and supporting us with feedback on Reddit, Twitter, and the Planetside 2 forums. I hope I get to see you all online in-game and look forward to seeing your reactions to what we bring to PS2 in the coming year. So all in all, not that he dropped a lot of information, but enough of a teaser as to what's coming to make us kind of interested in what we're going to see next in the game. A good producer's letter. I would love to see these come quarterly and give us kind of an idea exactly what's going on in game at any given time. It's better than no news. All right, and back to present February 11th, 2018. I hope you enjoyed my Wayback Machine sound effects. So, as you can see, Nick was very focused on listening to feedback, making changes based on feedback, along with internal data. Didn't want to make any changes based on knee-jerk reaction from players. And really, what did they say was coming in 2017? Vehicle changes, spawn changes, a dynamic region system, and also kind of fleshing out why we fight in Planetside 2. So the question really is, did he achieve everything that he wanted to achieve in 2017? So let's take a look at this. So first, I think that they have held the line pretty well regarding listening to feedback, making changes based on feedback and internal data, and again, not making those knee-jerk reaction changes based on things that players are saying. So I will say that they've continued to focus on that, so we'll give them a check for that. But then as we move on to what's coming in 2017, first, vehicle changes. Obviously, we got the Combined Arms initiative in 2017. Granted, it was pretty close to the end of 2017, but Combined Arms is in the game at this particular point. Now, I think the real question is, are vehicle players 100% happy with the Combined Arms initiative? And I don't think that they are. And I do think that Nick said vehicle players would be happy with the changes coming to the game itself. So I kind of got to give them, a 50-50 on this one. I should have prepared this and done, like they do for the State of the Union address, liar, truth, or whatever. This one's kind of in the middle because, yes, we got vehicle changes, but no, I don't think that all vehicle players are happy with those changes. So again, we'll kind of give them half credit on this particular one. Next one was spawn changes, and thinking back over the year, the spawn changes that we saw, they moved the ability to spawn on beacons halfway across the map to not being able to do that, and then kind of bringing it back again. Other than that, I can't recall too many other big spawn changes that they've made to the game itself. So I'm kind of giving them an X on that one. The dynamic region system, technically that just launched this past week. So can we give them a thumbs up for 2017? I mean, if you really want to hold it to the letter of the law, his producer letter came out on February 7th, 2017. And the Unstable Warpgates came on February 8th, 2018. Maybe I'll just give him the benefit of the doubt on that particular one. But as you can see, from concept to design to implementation, something as big as that has taken an entire year to get into the game itself. His fourth one, Why We Fight, I don't think that they have covered that one whatsoever. And I haven't heard them talk about trying to flesh out why we fight in this game in a while, so I kind of got to give him a -1 on that particular one as well. So you see, some of the things, yes, they've held strong or held fast regarding that producer's letter. I'm not going to lie, I was disappointed that we didn't get a year 2 producer's letter from Nick. I think that would have been a nice thing. Maybe he's kind of forgotten about it. Maybe it's been backburnered. Maybe if he listens to this week's show, he'll hear that maybe it's time to do another producer's letter. But is a producer's letter really necessary if they continue to do the dev live streams? No, not so much. But I still, and I said it when we listened to the Wayback Machine, I wanted to see these things come out quarterly, and they haven't come out quarterly, and based on this, they haven't even come out annually. So I do think that there's a little area for improvement on this as well. So Nick, if you're listening, good job on the things that you did promise and bring to the table, and hopefully we'll see another one of these producer letters soon. And again, I would love to see them quarterly, but that's just me. With that, let's move on to our final topic this week and talk about Valentine's Day. Obviously, everyone is aware Valentine's Day is coming. It is this upcoming Wednesday, the 14th, which means that Valentine stuff is going to be available in the game itself. They've been very mum over at Daybreak Games about what they're doing. But, of course, thankfully, the community has already datamined some of the things that we should be seeing for the Valentine's Day event, sale. I guess it's more a sale than anything else. So what are we going to normally get? I mean, all the other ones, the other Valentine's Day events, we've gotten the Empire-specific love decal and loyal hearts and tarnished hearts camo. We've also got the NS Broken Hearts camo, the Esamir Indar hearts decal camo as well. We've had the Heart Hood ornaments, the Cupid horns, Valentine's Day crossbows. I expect all those various things to come back into the game itself. But some of the datamined stuff that we have, we're going to see a new Archer variant called the AM7XOXO. So it's going to be a lovingly crafted anti-materiel rifle variant. So looking at the datamined image of this thing, it's basically a pink and white Archer with hearts on it. Expect that within the game itself. There's going to be a Cupid horns bundle coming to the game. So basically, you can get all of the horns in one full bundle. Hassan Hearts camo is coming to the game itself, and that's going to round out all the different continent hearts collection, so you can get all of them. There's going to be a gilded hearts weapon camo coming, and kind of looking at that, it just looks like it's going to be a black camo with some gold hearts on it. There's also going to be a star-crossed bundle, which is, it's going to be a pair of the crossbows themselves. I'm guessing it's probably just the two existing I don't think it can be, because it looks like from the data mined information that Each crossbow is going to award a special title when you reach gold medal with them, and they're going to be NS weapons. So I don't know that it's going to be the existing crossbows that are in the game right now, but I could be wrong. Again, this is all just data mined information, so we don't 100% know what these crossbows are going to be themselves, but we do know that you're going to be able to get some titles as long as you get the gold variant of... I'm sorry, not the gold variant, but the gold medal within the crossbows themselves. And in case you've forgotten, the gold medal is 160 kills. So again, that's just a little unofficial information, thanks to Block X Elite, who had data mined this stuff. He's got a post out there with images of them as well that I'll link to in case you want to go and check them out. But honestly, if you're listening to the show on Monday, it's only going to be a couple more days, or if that, before all this stuff actually drops on live and we actually get to go out there and use it. So with that, let's move on to housekeeping this week.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
And yeah, no emails, no voicemail. Well, I got a couple of voicemails, but they're all hang-ups. So if you wanted to leave me a voicemail, you got to try again. So I guess that's going to be it for this week's show. So how can you get in touch with me or the show itself? As always, first stop, my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Second up, send me an email, instantactionshow@gmail.com. Call me, leave me a voicemail, don't hang up, 347-4VM for PS2 or 347-486-4772. The show's Twitter account is @InstActPodcast, and my personal Twitter is @TheDerringer. But in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.
Get your arms combined.